15, meeting of the Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the township clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with township policy.
Please join me in a pledge of allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and general welfare for all the people of the Pequannock Township.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan? Mr. Vanderhoff? Mayor Winterfield?
Here. There are no presentations scheduled for this evening, so we'll go right into reports from volunteers. At this time, are there reports or comments from any volunteers serving our community? Huh?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Tom Andrea, 6 Elm Road, Thompson Plains. I have a handout. I'll ask Carol to hand out to the council members. Just one sheet.
Sorry, I'll do it myself next time. Keep going because it says the date.
For everyone's benefit, there's the town and the town council's benefit. The town council asks the Parks and Rec Advisory Board to look in the dogs and leash ordinance here in the town. So we reviewed that ordinance and have some opinions on it. The section is on the top of the sheet, subsection 129.02.70, and the specific section is C, domestic animals, and I'll just read it because it's short. Dogs, cats, and other domestic animals are prohibited on all park properties, whether running at large or on a leash, except as otherwise herein provided. Nothing herein shall be constructed as prohibiting the use of seeing-eye dogs by the blind on park property, except of the rules will be at the park commonly known as Mountainside Park and Foothills Park. So dogs are allowed on leash at Mountainside Park and Foothills Park. All other parks in town, they're prohibited. The changes the Parks and Rec Advisory Board propose are changing seeing eye dogs by the blind to just service dogs. And in the exception list, which is now just Mountainside Park and Foothills Park, we felt that Foothills Park should really be Foothills Park because there is now a playground at Foothills Park too. And also, we felt we might as well add to that exception list Aquatic Park, since there's not a playground there. And that's how it went on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Anybody have any questions? Or?
This is because of the program?
Yes, right. So that means nothing changed as far as the hoedown was concerned. You know, the dogs would still be prohibited from being at the hoedown and inside Greenview Park.
You just have to be consistent with what we're doing.
Absolutely, right. You know, we're worried about especially kids playing at parks, playing on fields with dogs around. You know, if they run over, start pulling the tail on dogs, yanking at the dog, there could be a problem, even if the dog is excellent. So,
Are there signs posted?
there are signs posted now. They're working on improving those signs. Dave, do you want to add anything, or?
No, with regard to signs, there are signs that, for people who use the park regularly, you probably don't notice them, but they are we do an annual inspection, make sure that all of our horses are.
I just had a general question or comment. Because it's so hard sometimes to enforce, do we know, are people abiding by it? Or do a lot of people, like, do we have to educate the community? Or are a lot of them bringing their dogs there? To like Greenview Park or whatnot?
I can speak
Do we
on that.
know?
I think education needs to be done because
Okay.
especially you saw at the hoedown, I've heard of other cases at Woodland Lake where there's been problems and Greenview Park problems, you know, with dogs.
And that's right, yeah, I mean, it might
So,
just be education.
yes.
Because, you know, now we reviewed it again, and even though the signs are posted, we need to make sure everybody knows.
Well, I'm going to take this, Tom, as your recommendation from Parks and Rec, and you'd like.
Absolutely.
to see this or-
Yes, with those three things.
All right, well, we can put it on the agenda. If everybody's in agreement with these, the small,
That's fine.
I'm sorry, as an ordinance or for discussion?
well, I think if we're all in agreement, we can say we're still calling here, we'll just do the ordinance and fix it. We'll just go on.
Is this only minor changes?
They're minor.
Yeah.
Right, that's all we're doing. You know, that's all we propose, minor changes. You know, but you never know, there could be an outcry from the public who says, well, we want our dogs everywhere. You know, at our first cut at this, we didn't agree with that.
Well, by putting it on the agenda, people will be able to come up with
Right, see
comments.
that and object and,
Exactly.
yes,
There was
right,
9 Parks and Rec advisory board members there, it was a 7-2 vote in favor of this.
yes,
There was 2 people that thought the dogs should be allowed there.
Okay.
right.
Well, we can, there's going to be more discussion, there's a chance, but we'll move forward.
This is an excellent starting point, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else? Louise just popped up, so just want
I thought I knew everyone in town. Go figure. Hi, I'm Louise Marchese, 16 Roland Road. Serve as recording secretary for EDC and Flood Committee, so I'm going to give reports on both. EDC, at our last meeting, we had a guest come to join our meeting in an effort to put together a survey. Lisa Data from Crestwood Consultants. The survey will be going out to residents, businesses, along with landlords. We just want to get a feel of anything that might be out there, why people shop in town, why businesses come into town, the likes and the dislikes, etc. I am, once again, we're going to mention that bracket, which still stands right over what used to be Powell Stationery on the Pequannock side of town. The reason why I'm mentioning it is because I had some assistants at the last meeting. They looked up the ordinances. There's 3 ordinances that apply to the maintenance of commercial property, 135.10, 11, and 20, if this helps at all, because every time I walk past there, it sickens me, and it's really a shame. The bracket has to go. Getting back to the EDC meeting, what was also mentioned at the meeting is a new accounts payable procedure here in town. All requisitions will go through the town clerk first, and this should improve the paper trail that follows. Moving on to the flood meeting that we had last week, we were joined by both Joe Golden and Ray Metzler. They spoke about the flood mitigation plan. Joe is presently working with a Garrett Briner from, he's an ISO specialist at the county level. Our main concern right now is to improve our CRS rating, which is right now at a 7. One of the things Joe mentioned that his team will do is go into homes where they where they receive their elevation certificate if they have any questions, concerns, or problems, and hopefully can make some recommendations to the insurance company as a result. They mentioned, they emphasized the need to advertise, get the word out to the public of all that's being done regarding flood here in this area. Dara, who is chairperson of the committee, has formed a subcommittee to review the flood mitigation plan. Going through the steps, it's going to take probably about 3 months before that subcommittee is going to be ready to present it to the community. The committee will continue to work with both Joe and Ray, and we found them to be very knowledgeable and extremely helpful. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Joe?
Joe Wells, 5 Washington Street, Pompton Plains. I'm reporting as part of the Open Space Committee, but basically the topic is the entrance to Aquatic Park that I spoke to the council about. few months ago. I did talk with Dave, and we did get a letter. I forwarded to Nathan Fenno, the president of the New York Susquehanna and Western Railroad, and they are in agreement that they would like to work with us on that. And I'm meeting with the Morris County Board of Transportation Thursday to see if they're agreeable to the site location. And at that point, I would probably talk with Dave and the engineer, and we'd do a physical look at that particular site, and hopefully have a plan worked out within the next, say, 60 days. So that's progress on that issue. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Joe, can I ask a question? Did you hear anything about the bike trail when you were talking to the transportation department?
I spoke to both the transportation board and Nathan and Mr. Fenno did. The basic function at this point is that we're hoping to have all the environmental studies done by the end of the year. We had to redo all the environmental because we moved the location of the trail from adjacent to the tracks on the right-of-way into the area that's right over the tracks. The new rail trail will actually be right on the rail. So that required us redoing the environmental studies and sampling all those areas 50 feet from where we took the last sample. So we're hoping that would be done at the end of the year. The prognosis, or my best guess, and this is Nathan feels the same way, Jerry Rossler from the Morris County Board of Transportation, our estimate is 3 to 5 for completion. Now, that sounds like a long time away, but 18 years is the current, it's been 18 years since we started the project, so 3 to 5 isn't really that far away. Dave, I'm sure, remembers how long it's been. But anyway, that's the scenario at this point in time.
You sure they're not going to change the right of way back to the side because the environmental comes back?
That is exactly right. The environmental is not done. So based on, yes, the study will be done by the end of the year, but we don't know what it's going to tell us. But there is a big benefit in the sense that we had the cantilever off the bridge down crossing the river, very expensive. Now it just goes straight across. And there's a lot of other places where it's a lot less expensive. Any other questions?
No, we're anxiously waiting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Patience.
No, thanks for the
I'll be able to ride my scooter.
a motorized scooter.
Wheelchair.
Well, the railroad is officially abandoned. If you want to ride your bike on the right-of-way,
Oh,
it's
we've
not
tried
really.
that, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've tried,
Yeah.
Not
It's
that
a-
easy.
A mountain bike is required, that's it.
definitely.
Thank you.
Can everybody hear out there with the air conditioning on? Or is it hard? Because we can shut it off, or anybody can hit the button and shut it off if they can't hear us. The next item on the agenda, public comments. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period of public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized to come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record. Joe?
Joe Wells, 5 Washington Street, Pompton Plains. I just want to comment on the early statement about the ordinance on the dogs. I think that knowing the town, and obviously I'm on open space and involved in a lot of areas, I think we should consider a lot more areas for dog walking in park or town-owned property. The river walk is going to be, okay, any place we have a trail, people want to walk their dogs. There's a trail around Woodland Lake, and I think that would be an ideal place to have dogs. Obviously Mountainside and Aquatic. The river walk would be another place. There's Cherry Street Park. There's a lot of properties that should be investigated before we just make an ordinance and only add one area. And also I think we should have a lot more public comment, pro and con. I think there's certainly no area where children are present, or like the swimming area, and any of those areas where they would come, where there could be an altercation, there could be contamination of waste. All of those things should be considered, but there's a lot of areas, other than just adding one place, that should be considered to allow dogs on a leash where people could walk them. There's a lot of people in town that use a lot of areas, and conversely, we should, make people fully aware where they shouldn't have a dog. But I think a lot more consideration should be given to that subject. And bringing it up for an ordinance the next meeting, I don't think is going to allow enough people to be aware of it, and I think it's giving it short shift by doing that.
No, this isn't a new ordinance.
This is an ordinance, this is.
No,
the
the change in the
modification.
ordinance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Clarification, it's really not changing a whole lot.
No, you're not, but that's what I'm saying. I think more places, my thing would be to open it up to other areas, not to just add that one place.
Well, your comment's well taken too, because I believe in the past we've had like, the park ranger would do a walk with your dogs and stuff, and I probably were breaking the ordinance when they would do those things, right? They would do that in Mountainside Park.
In Mountainside Park.
Yeah, right.
It's permitted.
What does it say on there? I don't know what that, the whole thing, we'll have to read it, and we'll probably will have to get everybody to comment so people know. And I think education, what Tom said is important too, because this is the first year, but recently it seems to be a hot item. I don't know if more people are getting more dogs or people are getting scarier dogs that are frightening people, some of these pit bulls and things. And so possibly that's more of why this.
Yeah, I think you need to see both sides of the issue,
Right.
and the more knowledge there is, I think you would benefit. And I think there should be more restrictions in some areas. It's not a one-sided thing.
Right.
But I think there should be more allowance in other areas. That's my comment there.
I got a feeling we'll be talking about this a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
But I'd like to see some more public notice than just putting it
No.
for a vote on the next council meeting.
That's a good point. We'll
Does
take-
get noticed.
Yeah, but we want to notice it.
Yeah, you really want, that, I don't think that's sufficient, that's just my opinion. Thank you.
That's one of the reasons I brought up that point before, because I don't think it was until the hoedown that it became an issue.
Right.
And even though you reviewed the ordinance and only made minor changes, I don't think people were fully aware of the ordinance. So they were probably out there walking their dogs at Greenview Park, they just never got in trouble for it,
Right.
that type of thing.
Well, if I can just follow up, and I disagree with that.
Oh, okay.
I think that there are plenty of people who were aware of it in the past.
Right.
I know just from my experience, having kids go through various recreation programs, we've had parents go to dog owners and say, it's not appropriate to have your dog at a soccer game.
Okay.
And that's occurred over the last 10 years. I think the number of incidents of people bringing their dogs into parks has increased.
Okay.
And there's, if you just watch TV, there are now, hotels that cater to, pets.
Exactly.
It's a change in, society really, and the expectation. And I think that even though our rules have not changed, the expectation of a different generation has changed.
Yeah.
And they may not be aware of a very long-standing prohibition of dogs in our parks and why that is in
Right.
place.
Point well taken.
So, yes, we probably do need to do more education in response to the increased incidents.
Yeah.
And I think Joe's right too. There's probably other areas in town that we should consider. And since there is a greater need and greater demand for pet activities, I think we can find those places and meet everyone's needs without having to create a situation where playgrounds and sports fields are subject to
Right.
animals where things may go badly.
So instead of just putting
I
on
agree.
it for an ordinance change, why don't we have a discussion about it?
And then we can
Right.
do that.
Yeah,
That way you can vet it out.
agreed.
There's some articles
Good.
coming in the trends very shortly, so maybe after that comes
Oh, yeah, the
out,
survey.
would be the appropriate time to undertake it.
It's okay. It's getting to the winter months, so it's a good time to be working on this. So before the spring, we'll have it now.
Good.
Anyone else? Steve? Your name and address for the record?
Stephen Connolly, 44 Duncan Avenue. One thing I just want to say to the dog ordinance, I walk my dog to Greenview Park every other day with my family. I didn't know that it was not allowed, so I will gladly abide, but I had no idea. So maybe signage might help. Just a thought, just so you hear from my side.
Are you walking in which entrance?
The front entrance,
The
not the
main
back
right off the
entrance. We
West
just
Parkway?
go for a walk and come back. So he's on leash. He's a big greyhound. He's like loving.
Tomorrow, you going tomorrow?
Well, you know, we go and I always hang out by the playground there, but I always keep him out of the playground because I don't want kids coming over, especially parents getting nervous about him because he's big. But you know, I didn't know that at all, that it was not allowed.
I think a lot of people don't know, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, that's why we heard a lot of
Yeah,
comments
so
go down. because-
I just wanted,
Yeah.
you know,
It came up at the Parks and Rec meeting that we think that there should be a sign at every entrance of the park. And there's
Yeah,
not.
because people come in from every which way. That's why I asked.
maybe
which way
new
you come in.
signage so it's recognizable,
Maybe digital.
digital.
That's a joke.
Words out of my mouth.
I'll have it there tomorrow.
Be there tomorrow.
I also wanted to speak to the resolution that you have slated for tonight. As you know, there's an old African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Many of you know Louise, who's here. She told me, now her son's 37. Since he graduated high school, 11 kids in this town died from drug overdoses. I know it's not something we want to take lightly. And we all know drugs are a problem in this town. We had a burglar ransacking town recently, going through houses because he was a heroin addict apparently. And you know, the police can't fight this on their own. So we have to attack it from all sides. And when we're at the hoedown, we met so many families that were supportive of the skate park. And, you know, they understand that these kids need a place to go. And these parents, they're parents and they're taxpayers. And not all of them are on a lawyer's salary. So they understand what it means when it's coming out of their pocket to pay for a skate park. And they understand when a town builds something that everybody's building it. And that's why we look forward to working with the town to work on a plan that's cost effective and at an appropriate location. And we all know the story of how many times kids have come before the town council trying to get a skate park built. So I think it's time we get it done. And, you know, as a sport that started in the streets just like baseball, it's a sport of multi-billion dollar industry, almost at Olympic level. And with that, I just want to thank the town council for giving us an opportunity to have a resolution. And we want to work with the town to get that done. And I also want to thank the people of the town of Pequannock for the support.
Thanks, Steve. Anyone else? We're good? Okay. Next on the agenda, public hearing, ordinance number 2015. Ms. Marsh?
Yes, this is ordinance, I'm sorry, 2015-15, an ordinance to amend Chapter 124 entitled Solid Waste Utility of the Code of the Township of Pequannock.
Are there any comments? I think we've talked a lot about that. If anyone in the audience has questions or comments on this ordinance, please come to the microphone, identify yourself for the record. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make that motion to adopt ordinance 2015-15.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes,
Mr. Phelan?
Yes,
Mr. Vanderhoff?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Our next public hearing is ordinance 2015-16. Ms. Marsh?
This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 29 entitled Salaries and Personnel of the Code of the Township of Pequannock.
Are there any comments from council? If anyone in the audience has questions or comments on this ordinance, please come to the microphone, identify yourself for the record. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2015-16.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
yes,
Mr. Phelan?
Yes,
Mr. Vanderhoff?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda is ordinance for introductions. Ms. Marsh, 1.
This is ordinance 2015-17, an ordinance establishing minimum and maximum salaries and pay rates for designated officials and employees of the Township of Pequannock for the year 2015.
Mr. Holberg, any comments about it?
Yeah, this is our first revision to this ordinance in 2 years and the first major revision in 3 years. Since the township implemented the performance pay plan, and the ranges are now developed based on a standard deviation, 20 to 80% of like salaries for that position in local government. We have not been changing them as frequently because the pay plan is based a lot more on the range itself. And the amount of compensation that employees receive has to do with where they are in the range. Periodically, however, we do need to look at the ranges, and we have, and there are a couple of them which, for a couple different reasons, some of them we just redid the calculation and they need to be adjusted. A couple we found we needed to segregate, particularly part-time professionals, nurses, and sanitarians, so that the ranges would be more effective for how we're trying to manage the increases. We needed to separate them out into their own category or grouping. So that's why you're seeing this tonight, and it's, like I said, it's our first revision in 2 years.
Are any of the deviations out of whack? Are they kind of, did you have to adjust, or is there any of them that are, they're getting too far apart?
Not too far apart. What we've
From the min and the max, yeah.
No, the min and the max, the range is has remained fairly constant, but has increased. We had a couple employees over the last couple of years really bumping at the top when they no longer are when you look at comparable salaries.
So the changes on this were really just the bolded, like some of these
Yes,
numbers are more
it's only the
bold.
bolded that are the changes.
And the only-
Everything else remains the
The
same.
only thing I would have liked to seen was a where it was before we changed it, and I didn't have that in front of me when I looked at it, but, I mean, looking at it, it doesn't seem like it's, way off, but I would have liked to seen a comparison.
And actually, when you look at, we try and list them in order by the high of the range. And even those that are changing have not changed their location within the scale, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, they're not bumping up to beyond a different
Got it.
classification.
Right, I believe in holding on to good employees, and
Right.
I'm looking at some of the salary ranges, and they don't really seem out of whack as far as I'm concerned, especially some of the directors and stuff.
And we do have, the backup, the spreadsheets, the calculations for
Right.
each of those.
Well, how you doing the evaluations and all that, I think it's really good. Yeah. So no more council, any more comments, you're good? Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make that motion to introduce this first ordinance first reading of this ordinance 2015-17.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes?
Mr. Phelan,
Yes,
Mr. Vanderhoff,
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield.
Yes. The next agenda items is resolutions, Ms. Marsh?
Beginning with 2015-172, establishing the Skateboard Park Advisory Committee. Resolution 2015-173, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. 174, authorizing the issuance of a duplicate tax sale certificate for Block 3901, Lot 18. 175, authorizing submission of a New Jersey DOT grant application for reconstruction of Mountain Avenue Phase 1. And 176, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the October 9th, 2015 bill list.
Mayor, I'd like to pull out 172, have a separate vote on that one.
Sure, that's fine. Are there any comments on the resolutions from council? Dave?
Yes. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
I was just gonna start over there.
Okay, you start with
Yeah,
it.
okay, we'll go. You have any comments on anything?
Just that, we're gonna talk about 172 now, or we're gonna?
You can say whatever you want
Yeah.
right now about anything. You got the floor.
All right. I think we need to make it clear our intentions for the skateboard park. I don't think we should lead them down the path that it's gonna go back here. I don't think it's a great idea to put it between the basketball courts and the first aid squad. I also think that it's gonna be difficult for us to fund the whole project. I think that, you know, they're gonna have to have some contribution or funding or some other, as long as that is clear with them, that just because we're establishing this parks, skateboard park advisory committee, that's not a definite yes.
Well, is there copies out there for people, or no, Carol? Is there copies of the resolution? Because it says that it's for, the Township Council is determined to be in the best interest of the township to establish an advisory committee to consider the following factors: development and maintenance of a skate park, including location, design, and cost. So that's what it's about. It's not about building it, it's about doing all that homework, doing all that discovery.
I'm fine with that, as long
Yeah.
as everyone is.
But I don't think everybody out there has had a chance
Just
to read
because
it.
we're gonna
Right.
organize this.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have copies of it, or no? Okay.
Well, some,
Yeah. No, I just want everybody to make sure they know what we're voting on, that we're voting on an advisory committee, not we're voting on a skate park. Okay. Anything else, Dave?
No, nothing else.
Melissa?
I have similar concerns. We talked about them. I think that's one of the reasons we said we're going to put this committee together.
Exactly.
We just don't want people to think that this is an automatic thing, that we've, agreed. I don't know if, I'm looking at the ordinance about the makeup of the committee. It seems like it makes sense. Let's wait and see what kind of, applications we get in. I just want, I even kind of thought it wouldn't be a bad idea to have somebody that maybe is not a big advocate of it to be involved in the process, which would be interesting. So yeah, that could be. Because you want to get a flavor of everyone. And
You played with that guy.
and I'm sure these are things that are going to come up. We've always talked about like visibility of where that park is important. However, we've already determined pretty much that the visibility where it makes most sense might not be the best place for it to go. So you're going to have a lot of homework and you're going to have a lot of obstacles. And I agree with Dave. I just don't know how the town's going to pay for this whole thing, but let's see where the numbers come. I think we're going to have some kind of fundraising or something else, besides the taxpayers paying it. And the only other thing that I want to say that came to my mind is not unless it goes out to a question for the taxpayers once you get your homework done, if it's a avenue we go down.
If I could add one more
Sure,
thing.
go ahead, sure.
At the Parks and Rec meeting, Denise did have some concerns, not about the skateboard park, but finishing some of the projects that we have going on with Parks and Rec right now before we start another project, before we finish some of the other ones.
Okay.
Any other resolution, any questions?
No, I'm good on everything else.
You want to go to Jay first, or do you want to do me?
I think we're doing it in order.
Oh, okay. I gave everybody a copy of the letter from the First Aid Squad, who's expressed their displeasure of putting a skate park by their building, even though that is the most logical place to put this.
Well, we have lots of parks.
Okay, that's number one. So clearly, as a council, we know that the First Aid Squad is not in favor of putting it by their building.
But clearly, they did bring up some other serious things that we should put as another topic
Let's
for
not try
another
to
day.
change the subject.
No, I'm just saying.
Let's
we need
not try to
forget
change the
that.
subject. This is about the skate park being by the First Aid Building, not about cars parked over there. It's about the skate park.
Why
That's
would the
number
entire
one.
no?
That's number one. Number two is the funding, and I don't want to lead anybody down the wrong path here. The council is really not going to want to fund the majority of this. If you think you can do fundraisers and raise $150,000, because this is probably what this is going to cost, then God bless you, because I'm in favor of skate park, but I'm not in favor of skate park by the First Aid Building, and I'm not in favor of funding the skate park. So if you think that you can do a committee and go and not lose interest over the next couple of months because you found out that we as a council are not supportive, not all of us, some of us, are not willing to pay or support $150,000 for whatever the cost is, then I'm okay with this resolution. But you have to understand something. You're going to get discouraged somewhere along the line when you figure out that we're not going to fund it, or the majority of us are not willing to fund it. And you've heard 3 of us say it. You're probably going to hear number 4 after me. So I just want to make it clear, if you want to do this and you want to come back to the council and say, hey guys, it's going to cost $150,000, this is what we're going to do for fundraiser, we're not going to put it by the first aid building, as long as we all understand that, because you hear the resistance you're getting on certain things, I'm fine with it. Again, I would be willing to do whatever I can to help, except for funding it, or putting it by the first aid building. And I think I made that perfectly clear last time. So I happen to have the soon-to-be chief of the first aid squad sitting in the back of the building, or back of the room here, who, if you guys don't believe me, you're more than welcome to talk to him.
Do you have any other questions on any other resolution?
There are other resolutions?
Yeah. Did you read them?
Of course I do.
Okay. No, do you, seriously?
No, I don't.
The amount, right? Jay?
Okay. Again, first aid squad is the biggest issue. We've had this come up 10 years ago. Council at that time did support it, but it was a sharing of cost. All right? Economic conditions changed, didn't work out. I think as time goes on, the council will give you more guidelines on what the committee should do and what information we need. Funding, it was totally council, it's a long ways out. I think it should be shared. One of my biggest stumbling blocks is, the 50, the 100 youth that are going to use it. There's got to be some type of ratio. We have almost 800 kids in lacrosse. They have fields they use which aren't lit. How do we justify spending, and I'm going to say it's going to be $150 to $250 for a skateboard park, because it was $150 10 years ago, and it was basic. How do we go about justifying that type of money for a skateboard park when we have fields that aren't lit, which involves a lot more use? All right, I'm not negative to it, but we've got to rationalize somehow. There's got to be some equal allotment of the money that we use for capital expense to equal out the masses versus a few. So it's a tough road ahead. A lot of homework to do. Location's going to be a big thing, and but I will support the resolution. But there are a lot of questions, and number one is going to be funding all the way down the road. So I do want the council to be able to think of issues you want answered by the committee, so as time goes on, we can get to them. I don't see it being 2-3 months down the road. It's a lot of homework to do. So
It's a long road, guys.
long road.
Do you have any other
You know
questions,
anything
Jay?
about government, it's a long road.
Do you have any other questions, Jay? On any
No,
other
everything else is
resolutions?
good.
Well, on the skate park, I thank you for supporting the resolution, even though you don't support the park. I think that if you were to even think you were going to seek out any kind of donors, that you have to have a design and a location. So you do need to do this piece. I mean, I have spoken to people privately who are interested in donating a huge sum of money, but you have to give them a design and a location and something to donate against. You just can't give a concept that we want to do a skate park. So this is the next step. You have to do this step before you can go to the next one asking for money. You can't ask for money if you don't know what you're asking for. So this is the logical next step. I do know that the skate park committee did give a full presentation, the same one they gave us, to Parks and Rec, and they unanimously moved it forward for us to consider. And it was unanimous. There wasn't one person there who said that we shouldn't explore this. That was their recommendation, just to explore this. So I'm happy that we're exploring this, and that I'm sure that they'll do a fine job with all that input. So I don't think there's anything more to belabor on that.
Just one point in that, you've got to remember that the Parks and Rec Board is not responsible for the taxpayers' money.
Right.
We
No,
are.
but they happen
I
to be
didn't want to say that,
taxpayers.
but you-
They can give us a long list of things to
Right.
do.
Yeah, but as I
Doesn't mean it's
said,
gonna happen.
there is an organization that does want to make a large sum donation, and they can't until
That's
we do
fine.
this. So without doing that, and we have the support, The police chief was on that video. He was interviewed. As Steve said, very important. We got to attack the problems with the youth from many directions. So we have to talk about these things. We just can't keep sweeping them under the carpet. A long time ago, when I was raising my son, there wasn't lacrosse in town, and now there is. In the 1800s, there wasn't baseball. They were playing stickball on the street, and now they have baseball fields. So this is how things evolve. So I applaud us for even just doing the research.
Do you remember the 1800s?
Yeah, I did. I studied my history, didn't you?
Maybe you were
Dave,
born.
I have one quick thing. Was this, who came up with the 7 members and what they were comprised of? Was that just you taking a stab at it, or?
There was a group of us.
We toss it around.
No, I'm just wondering if there's enough employees in there, because it looks like a, a park, not Parks and Rec
Well,
advisory,
We had
but
thought
Parks and
about
Rec.
9 people, but we thought it would just be too big.
But I would like to see maybe somebody either from, I don't know, the engineering department or the police
And-
department
and
or
my-
Parks and Rec.
My feeling on that is, that like any other advisory committee, they are a creation of yours to advise the governing body. Through me, my staff will make their opinions known, and believe me, if there's an opinion to be heard,
You'll hear
Okay.
it.
I just want to
you'll
make sure I
hear it.
hear it, yeah.
And
exactly.
it doesn't necessarily need to take up another spot on the
Okay.
committee. I think the committee should have representation from staff so that, everyone's kind of working in the same direction and we don't end up with a recommendation that's either completely unworkable or at the end of, the time period that we've identified, come back and say, oh, well, I can't make this work for whatever reason. So I think there needs to be the interaction, but I don't think the committee needs additional staff representation.
Okay. I'll take that.
And it's my turn still. I have a question on the mountain resolution for the Phase 1. Which piece of mountain is that? Is that the one in between?
This is Boulevard to West Parkway. This is the same application we submitted last year and was declined.
Is this going to solve the problem with the resident that we had talked about where there's no visibility coming out of the driveway and all that? Is that going to solve some of those issues?
It won't completely solve that because it's a very narrow right-of-way. This grant will not improve the amount of right-of-way. There's no right-of-way acquisition here. This
It
is
does talk about sidewalks, though, so
surface
there's room for sidewalks?
drainage improvement. With reconstruction, yes.
Are we doing that then? Is that
The
what we're-
paved width won't be much greater than it is now. The sidewalk is to provide a safe place and a division with a curb from where the
Which
people are
side will that
walking.
be on?
Yeah, that's the important.
Yeah, right?
Just one side.
Yeah, which side, not one.
Yeah, I want to know which side. That road is dangerous.
I don't want to tell you the wrong information. I'll
You
have
don't
to go
know,
back and
okay.
check. It's been a long time since we.
All right, because we all know something has to be done there, but I'm just wondering, and will there be a hearing, or is this going to happen, and people aren't going to know who live there, that all of a sudden now they're going to have sidewalks in front of their house? and-
Well-
Cut the trees down.
when-
Right, exactly.
At some point, our typical process with these state road grants, Mountain Avenue is on our list of roads for reconstruction, whether it be a state-funded project or a locally funded project. It'd be nice to get money from the state. At some point, we're gonna have to bite the bullet if the state's not willing to give us the money. But if we can get money from the state 3 out of 4 years, I think we're doing.
No, I think it's good to do. I'm just curious as to what,
At the point that it's actually becomes a design project and gets funded, it's not funded right now.
okay.
So this is the first step in getting funding. At the point that it becomes a design project, then we start doing public outreach, just like we did on Jefferson, and we actually did make some design changes. We narrowed one of the sidewalks based on a resident concern there. So there is a process that we go through to try and involve, but keeping in mind the right-of-way improvements are there for the general public, not
Right.
for the homeowner.
Oh, I know, I'm
So,
completely with you.
um,
No, I'm
We-
completely on
we
board.
attempt to take homeowner concerns into consideration, but we need to create something there that's gonna work, and it's a very narrow,
No, when people are bicycle riding or jogging down that road, it's
we
really,
need to improve the
Do we
safety.
know why we were denied last year, or is it just that there were so many applications that there was not enough funding?
Yeah, in their grand scheme of ranking, we had an outstanding project in Jefferson that had not been completed yet.
Okay.
So we lost a couple points on that. And realistically, we had received grants 4 years in a row. So it's not unusual that you're not gonna get one every year. And then we got a supplemental grant anyway, so weren't really,
There's nothing wrong with the grant
Wrong thing.
submission, we just had a lot of grants that we were awarded. Okay, very good.
Thank
And
you.
the issue with site distance is nothing to do with our right of way. It's all private,
Right.
so.
But when you have problems with a neighbor and they have trees and you can't see to get out, it becomes
But,
an issue.
The
That's
sidewalk will
civilized.
take care of that.
Yeah, well, that's what I was
well,
asking.
no,
There won't
we're,
be any trees.
no, we're still staying on our right of way.
yeah, if the tree is outside the right of way,
It's not gonna-
we can't do anything about
Oh,
it.
those trees are pretty close to the road.
Well, some of them, but the issues we're talking about.
But we'll see if we
are
get the
private.
grant, if we get the grant. Okay. Councilman Phelan, do you still want to call out the skate park resolution, or are you good?
We can do more.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2015-172 through 2015-176.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes,
Mr. Vanderhoff?
Yes,
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the item agendas, items for discussion. Melissa, is it you lead, or who's going to talk about that?
Yeah, I don't know if Dave has any more information on that, but this was actually sent to me through Kim Chorba. She happens to be on the flood committee, and I guess she's also
I have some questions
with
about it
the,
myself.
right, so they had forwarded this to me, so I kind of wanted to, have discussion about it. I thought maybe Dave had some input on it, but this was a letter that was sent out, I guess the last week of September, to Governor Christie. It was from the Pequannock Senior Housing Board in support of this legislative bill, 4607. And it's basically asking the governor to sign the bill, which will help dial-a-ride as well as other important services for seniors and disabled.
Do you know why he's not signing it?
he's busy campaigning.
I don't know that he's not signing it. It was sent out.
Well, there's a hearing tonight.
Oh,
I got this passed to me,
okay.
and I don't know, because I don't know, do you know anything about it?
What I know is that the funding source for a lot of these programs was casino revenue, which has
Right.
Diminished.
That I saw in the letter.
decreased. And so that in order to maintain even constant funding, the state now has to kind of appropriate general funds towards this, which is what the advocacy groups are asking. To a certain extent, our Dollar Ride program does receive about $96,000 a year from this program, and it flows through Morris County. And to this point, we have been held. There was one reduction about 5 years ago from 110,000 to 96,000, and we've been held constant at that. It's really hard to know the impact on us in general. Senior transportation programs like our Dial Ride are receiving less funding as a result of the funding formula, which has always been casino revenue based.
Okay.
And this will kind of fill that gap. So.
I mean, I think it's a good idea to, write one in support of,
What a resolution.
Well, it sounds like it's on his desk. It's been on his, I read
Has
it.
it? Okay.
It's been on his desk since the summer. He has not signed it, he has not vetoed it.
He's been busy.
So what is the law? When does it go back? It goes after 45 days, it goes back, and is it 2/3 vote or
If they
something?
do nothing,
If
he
they do
does
nothing.
nothing, then it goes back to them.
And can they override?
Oh, yeah.
And then,
Sure.
so, because there was this public hearing tonight, right here. So I don't know what, and it looks like when you look up the bill, it's tangled with some higher ed thing too. So it's two different things on one bill.
Well, but it all has to do with casino revenue.
right.
It all
Okay.
has to do with filling the gap of the reduced casino revenue.
I don't think they were suggesting we write a resolution, just a letter in support of it.
Well, I think if anything, we should be talking, I guess it would be Hank Lyon, the freeholder who handles.
Yes.
What we need to do is find out what happened through these hearings today, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
And then follow it up at our next meeting with what do we need to do at this point.
Right.
Or if we need to do something in a hurry, somebody write a letter and say,
Do you want me to reach out to the freeholders? Is that something?
I
that
think
you
Hank
know?
Lyon does the social services piece. I think it would be Hank. And find out what he probably went, did you
No, I didn't see that.
see this? and see what the story is, like, what is the position of Morris County on this?
Right, so let's reach out, let's get some more information, and then if we have to
Does
write a
somebody else
letter
want to
real
do it, or you
quick.
want me to do it? Want me to follow up? I'd be glad to.
Yeah, I think it's Hank, I think he does the social
All right,
services.
so like I said, I just forwarded it, and I wanted to have a little discussion.
Because I think we
about
should be
it,
in
so.
unison with the
Right,
county.
if we all agree
Right.
that we need to write a letter, then somebody write a letter. We should agree to that right now.
They're having a phone campaign. There was some information I had here. They want you to call. They want you to call Christie's office every day, every hour.
But
Yeah.
he's not answering the phone.
No, he's not even there. Nobody's home.
Come on.
I think we need to find out what we're doing from the county's position, and
Yeah,
we'll have more power together than we will just as
exactly.
doing a resolution ourselves.
All right, I'll follow
Are we
up.
okay with that? What if
Are we
it's not
okay with
funded?
it?
What happens to our dial-a-ride?
Oh, no.
Are we okay? We're not okay?
We'll cross that bridge.
I think we'll be fine, but
You don't know.
they haven't given us a number to say you're gonna be cut X if this doesn't happen. And so far, I mean, Morris County has been good to us because our program is extremely effective and our numbers support their program.
Right, they keep growing.
So even as the casino revenue has dropped, they have diverted, they get a large pot of money which supports, 6 or 7 different programs. They've kept the 5-town regional dial-a-ride program whole, as a couple other programs have lost money or faded away. So to that extent, we're in a good position, and I think we still kind of hold favor with both New Jersey Transit and Morris County, because we do run an effective, cost-effective program that, supports, and we help them out whenever we can.
So you think Melissa talking to Hank is a good next move?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with supporting this bill. I mean,
Right.
there's no downside.
Right. Yeah, I think
Okay.
we should support it, but if you want me
And
to
ask
get
him
more
what he wants us to
information.
do. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. All
that's
right.
fine.
Okay. Next on the agenda, manager's report. Mr. Holborn?
Okay. Updated project status report is attached. It's 2 pages that follow. Our FEMA home elevation grant application was ranked 4th by NJOEM and moved forward to FEMA for their review. Indications are that we should get some type of feedback before the end of the year. Proposals have been received for the Martin Berry House Preservation Plan and are currently under review. We'll be in a position to award a contract at the October 27th meeting. And statistics from the Labor Day DWI enforcement campaign are on the back of the report. That's all I have.
That was pretty impressive that we were ranked 4th by New Jersey.
Yeah, right.
Very nice, yes.
Okay. Next on the agenda are council reports. Councilman Cole?
Nothing really other than, what Tom mentioned, that, Parks and Rec, we met the first Monday of the month. We discussed the dog park ordinance and, some other minor things, but nothing really. I missed the open space meeting last night because I attended the Met game, so. I should have went to the open space meeting, I would've got home a lot earlier. But that's it.
Okay. Councilman Flores?
Yeah, mine's quick because Louise gave us an update on our flood committee and our and economic development. But real quick, just to reiterate a couple of things. The flood committee is excited to work with Joe Golden's office, with Joe and Ray, to really help with public outreach and education, to do everything we can to help improve that CRS rating system for our town. So you'll be hearing more about that. EDC, as Louise mentioned, they actually hired someone to help put together this survey to be able to get the pulse from. We did this a couple years ago with business owners, but they wanted to get a mix of business owners, landlords, and the general public as far as what we want our future community, business area to look like. So they're working on that. There'll be more to come on that. And my only other comment is, I know Louise keeps bringing up the sign bracket over that old PAL store. What can we do do you want me to give have them summarize parts of the ordinance and send them in, and perhaps there's something we could follow up on with that? I'm just, I want to know if it's something that, if it's in our ordinance, we need to follow up on it.
Comment. I mean, the building is
Right, and that's why I'm
relatively clean. relative.
Mhm.
It might not be very effective, but I don't think there's anything we can hang a hat on.
Right.
The thing I was gonna bring
Maybe
up,
just a
in the
request.
sign ordinance, there is a stipulation when a sign is not in use, it needs to have a blank panel within it. So that's one thing we can enforce,
Right.
you know. If it's
You're
only ugly, yeah, but when we do anything about it, I don't think from our ordinance.
Well, they talk about a blank, putting in a panel, but I think it's just a rusted frame is what's there, I
Well, you
believe.
can see the light bulbs right
Right, right.
on our ordinance.
So I'd like to see something done there, so, I mean, if you
You know,
need.
our ordinance will block off the light bulbs.
Mhm.
That's about as far as I think it's gonna take it.
Can we have that checked out, or you need EDC to submit something on that? Dave?
No, I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
I agree with Jay. Our ability to enforce
Right, and I realize.
ugly is limited.
I thought maybe just a nice letter or something will make them do something. But anyway, so tomorrow we have our environmental commission meeting at 7:30, and then the flood meeting is Thursday at 7:30. That's it.
Councilman Phelan?
Okay, last night was the first aid squad meeting. Of course, they reiterated the fact that they don't want the skate park by their building. I have to keep repeating that just to make sure we all understand that. Greg Renna is stepping down as chief. Tom Lyons is going to be the new chief effective November 1st, which is not that far away. Just a quick note on Greg. He's been chief for 7 years. That's a long time to do that position. We as a council should recognize him in some way because that is a very difficult job to do over 7 years. So I do want to mention that he has done an outstanding job.
He's staying as a member?
Yes. The squad is in great shape, and we know Tom Lyons will do a great job also. The other thing, Dave, as everybody knows, I'm putting solar panels on my house. We need to start looking at our ordinances on this with setbacks on these roofs. Mine's going to be set back at least a foot off the peaks. But I know that we don't have any rules that say anything about solar panels and, disconnects and so forth. I'm making sure they have the disconnects on mine so that the firemen can get at the disconnects quickly. Those panels are still energized even though if you pull the disconnect. And there's a lot of things with solar panels that I'm learning now. From a safety standpoint, we got to really start cracking down because I believe more and more people are going to start putting solar panels on their house as time goes on, except for Kathy Wintertip.
Why is there special training for firemen to
Yes.
deal with those things
Yeah.
too?
Yes.
And I guess we'll increase their pay from 0 to 0.
No, it's
Double our
a
pay.
Yeah, right?
it's a serious thing. I mean,
No, it is, especially if you don't know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so that's it.
There's really no way to stop the power flow on it.
Right.
No,
Under the
they're-
sun.
they're
Yeah,
all-
they're
they're
just
always
waiting,
on.
You
waiting
can-
for the dark.
You can
Wait for the
disconnect
house to
it,
burn
you
down.
go into the system, but
Right,
you
but
can't
it's
stop
still
it.
generating
Still
DC
generating
power
power.
up there.
Even strong moonlight is enough to generate current. So
Right.
Look at
The
it.
solar panels I'm putting on are very.
you have to assume they're always energized.
Wow.
Stand in the street.
That's fine, sure.
Fireworks over Palin's.
I will fight it myself. Oh, I'm sorry, that's on Kent Place, but whatever.
Councilman Vanderhoff.
Okay, I was gonna bring a sign up, that's covered. I brought the train station up a while. I met with one of the very prominent members of the Historic Commission, asked them by September to at least come up with some companies that deal with roofs. And we've gotten nothing, so I think the town should undertake getting someone out there to look at it and make sure that we're not jeopardizing our integrity of the building.
You could go through the trucks over
Wood trucks on it. New line of trucks was in there, perfect.
I'm glad you brought that up. Somebody was in there, like the fire inspection, and just left the approval certificate, it was on the floor. Somebody would go in there and.
We wouldn't go in without someone there.
Someone did. That was interesting, yeah. So they're gonna frame it and hang it on the wall, I guess. But it was just thrown on the floor.
Maybe it was stuck under the door.
Maybe it's like, I don't know. Anything else, Jay?
That's it, I mean, we gotta protect the building, so since nothing's getting done, we should
Okay.
get a professional out there, look at the roof. see
So
if
are we
there's
gonna
issue.
pay to fix the roof?
Our building.
Okay.
Maybe
Well, I'm sure there's grant money.
We go for a grant. That's it.
Okay. Okay, I just want to remind council about committee openings. I mean, in November, we'll start to solicit, but each of you may not be meeting on a regular basis or not, so you can just solicit, reappointment for people. It's never too soon to talk to them about, putting in their application. If they're not, letting us know that there's going to be an open seat, so that we don't have to scramble.
Now, can we get an updated list of
And the deadline,
whose
Yes.
terms are up?
Absolutely.
and deadline for submission is,
November, the end of November, right?
Yeah, I figure it's just never too soon to just start, so we're organized, so we're not, rushing to do that, and then we can decide about on the openings if we need a workshop or not. Also,
So the senior citizens, we should tell them first? The senior
tell them, Melissa,
I'll
tell them
make sure I
tomorrow.
tell
Just take the applications with you.
that's what.
Exactly, bring back some blank ones
Go
with
in
you.
and bring them back.
Yeah,
Just one other note, Engine Company 2 is having a fish and chips dinner on October 22nd at 4:30 at the Company 2 Firehouse. Tickets available from any firemen.
Or Jay Vanderbilt.
also with the committees, we did write a resolution on policies, and we did talk about minutes. I don't know if many committees are submitting minutes, for people to even solicit, and maybe for residents who are interested to just read about what they're doing, what are they about, what kind of things do they work on. So I mean, as you talk to your committees, maybe talk about getting the minutes to Carol, and Carol make sure they're posted. when
I
they're
just
supposed
did that with some of my committees, with the flood committee, because we were trying to help with the CRS and whatnot. I said, please make sure, on all these committees, we should be copying the township clerk and making sure that they get up there. If we're not
Parks and Rec, I
copying her,
haven't
she
seen
doesn't
any.
know. Right, she doesn't know to post them.
I don't see any minutes published.
But they're probably not posted.
Yeah, if you give them to Carol, she'll make sure they get posted.
May I ask that if possible, you ask people to say whether they're approved?
Oh, yeah, only submit approved ones, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, and the Historic District Commission had their Pathways Historic Tour. There were 23 small museums in Morris County that participated, and the train station was open all weekend, had many visitors. I brought some over, and I don't know if you have a total, do you, Lou, on how many people?
No, we didn't get a total that. No.
Yeah, but it was a very fascinating. There were many museums in open, and it was a great weekend for that. Also, October 24th, there's a cemetery tour by our township historian. There's a fundraiser for the Martin Berry House. Tickets, I guess, Louise, how can they get tickets for the cemetery tour?
I thought that was canceled, Kathy?
No, there were two tours. One was canceled. Yeah, they couldn't fill the two. So the one is the 24th. The rain date is the 25th. And then I have a question. Everybody got an audit report? Did all council get their audit report and read that? Because in mine was, I guess we're going to talk about this or have this on the next agenda item. But do I have the original? Is this supposed to be signed by everybody?
Right. Once everyone has had a chance to review it, that has to be signed. And that's done as part of the resolution, Carol?
The resolution says you're signing the affidavit.
Yes. The resolution.
Carol, you want to hang on to this, Carol?
Sure.
Because I haven't looked at mine yet.
Well, I have a couple of questions on it, so I'm wondering if we're going to just have a little discussion about it or have a separate thing about the audit and then talk about
Right.
the next audit,
I
because we're
just picked
trying.
mine up today, so I haven't even had a chance to look at it. So has everybody looked at it, or?
Yeah, I read it. I got a couple
I
of
looked at it
questions.
a little bit, but I'd like to look at it.
Okay,
Right, so give us a chance to look, and then we can discuss it at the next meeting.
okay. Is that all right, Dave?
Wait, however you want to do it.
Yeah, okay, so if we can make that for a discussion item, you want to do that, or you want to have a separate? How you want to do
Well,
that?
if you've got specific questions that you want me to answer, if you could get them to me, that'd be great, and then I will have them for a discussion at the next meeting.
Well, I can ask you a couple little ones now, or we can wait.
However you want to do it is fine.
Well, it did mention about, there's no refund policy for Parks and Rec, but yet now I see there is one up on the
No,
website.
there is a refund policy, and
Well, that's in the audit that there isn't.
So part of what I have to do within 45 days of receipt is the corrective action plan.
Okay,
So I'll attempt to get that done before the next meeting, so that you'll have that, because that'll respond to each of the comments.
Okay.
And what has either been done or my response to the concern.
okay, all right, so I have some other ones, so I'll wait till everybody reads it, and then we can go through the other things. And that's all I have. Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone, provide your name and address for the record. Anybody have any more comments?
No, we got
Okay,
one.
go ahead.
Hello, my name is, excuse me for my cold, Jordan Galliano from Tempeck Avenue, Pompton Plains. In the, in the discussion of the skate park committee, Steve and I are both in agreement that many of you councilmen and women are against the location of the skate park behind Town Hall. We understand your safety issues and concerns, and we're willing to forego that option and looking to other options within the town, as many of you have suggested, looking into Washington Park. Stephen and I have looked at one possible location in Washington Park, and we would like to propose that in the future, not right now, for the skate park location there as well. As Mrs. Winterfield was saying, that there are possible donors for the park. That is very great in terms of funding for the park. That's a huge help. The other aspect of the park is that with the donation that we're going to get from Nike, that has to be fulfilled. We have to pick up the materials by the end of this year. So my main concern is if, like Councilman Phelan said, that government is a very long road and takes very slow journey, is that if we prolong any of the hearings, or just my fear is that if we prolong, we might not be able to get the donation from Nike, which would then cost the town or the fundraising to go up even more. From what I estimated was that the granite and the materials supplied by Nike would cost anywhere from $40,000 to $70,000, which would save the town quite a bit of money in resources, design, and speaking with contractors to build the skate park. So I only ask is that the skate park just looked into more of a community aspect instead of just a concern with location. And I understand we will do our legwork and our homework to make sure that the location is appropriate and that everyone is in agreement with the location and how it is going to be built and the resources that are going to be used to create the skate park.
Just one thing on the ramps.
Sure.
There's a copy of
Our
the
insurance
resolution, so
company-
you have it. You can take that.
Oh, okay.
Our insurance company requires
Mhm.
that the ramps or structures, whatever we do, come through an engineering company.
Yes.
be certified and all that.
Mhm.
So your question may be, first ask, where these came from.
Mhm.
Were they designed by a professional company?
Mhm.
Would they even meet the requirements of an insurance company to begin with? Maybe you can explore that before you get into anything, to
Well,
answer that question.
The skate park that did build the barge that Nike is willing to donate to us was built by a world-renowned skate park builder, California Skate Parks, that is located out in California, and they do a lot of events for X Games, Street League skateboarding, do tours, so they are very well accredited and very well informed.
Maybe get whatever information you can on it.
Yeah,
Work
of course.
with Holberg and get the insurance company and see if it's feasible.
Of course, of course.
I think once the committee forms and they have the first meeting and they get some direction,
Mhm.
things will start to come together. Right now, it's
understand.
just been a little,
Yeah,
all over
understand.
the place.
I understand it can't jump right into politics and make everything work
He's
like
talking
that.
a
But
60-day deadline, so
The only way that you could get around that is if somebody stored them.
Right.
But
That
if
was-
somebody
Yeah.
stores them, they technically are gonna have to own them.
Is there a requirement for picking them up? That's what I was gonna say, like, is there a requirement, or is it like, if you want these, come get them type of thing?
well, that is the thing. They are willing to give it away to whoever wants them.
And this is just because there's a connection with
Yeah.
Nike? I was gonna say, why are we the only
Steve
ones?
can
that
take
have-
over. I'll stand
okay.
down.
Steve, you can take over.
Um,
Yeah, take that so you have it.
I just pressed, okay. Well, the connection is, a friend of mine runs the marketing company that works with Nike when they did this event. So he's housing this, he's billing Nike for the housing, and it's basically an orphaned, they're not ramps, just so everybody knows what the other obstacles. And you build it into it, and the builder will have to get engineering approval. I've talked to him already about it. But to answer your question, they're housed there, they're orphaned. He has to get them out of there. I might be able to get more time on it if possible. It's really an issue of space for him, and he said, I need to get him out by the end of the year. They're yours. For, you know, if you guys build a skate park, Nike, I talked to Nike about it. They're okay with it. They wanted to have New York City Parks take it. New York City Parks doesn't have use for it right now, so they said no. So,
So Pequannock second in line.
so yeah, we're second in line. I think a lot of it has to do with the work. Nike works a lot with New York City Parks, and New York City Parks is doing a lot of building. One big reason is, I won't go into it, but one of the New York laws is if it's under 3 feet, then they don't have, it's, as far as insurance goes, then, you know, if there's an obstacle under 3 feet, then, you know, it's fair game, like, they're not liable. I'm not sure what New Jersey's laws are besides skate at risk.
Information that we can
And,
share.
oh, okay, great, so I guess we'll talk about that. But, you know, to answer your question about, you know, the actual obstacles, they're there. He has to get them out by the end of the year. I could try to get an extension on it.
And
I
that's
think
the
he would
lighting,
work
right?
with us if he saw that.
How much
You know.
space do you need?
32 feet by 18 feet, right?
Yes, yeah. Probably, you know what, I'm looking at your desk. I would say from David Cole to Carol Marsh to the wall to the desk, and maybe about that high, something around that. Probably even maybe small. I don't know.
Yeah, probably like a tractor trailer. Like
Yeah, a tractor trailer. The one issue is weight. So, because they are granite. So marble.
Marble, granite, two different.
Yeah.
Jordan,
rock,
what do you think
stone.
about skating on that?
It's a good surface. It's very strong. It doesn't break away very easily. I've had experience skateboarding on it, and it's smooth. It's easy to ride on.
How about little ones, beginners?
Yeah, they can work on it. Yeah.
And you
As
can
long as it's
also
varying sizes, so
you can vary the sizes. Like some of it doesn't have to be high. You know, it'd be lower because we do want to do a park that caters to beginners to experts and older people, younger people. So.
You gotta go back to the basic, that you've gotta see if our insurance company would accept it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Start dragging this stuff out.
Yeah.
And you're only talking 60 days to the end of the year. So
Well, he's a friend of mine, so maybe I could work with him a little
I
bit.
would concentrate on, you know, if you think this stuff's good to use.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Then concentrate getting Dave the information whether it would be accepted or not,
Okay.
you know, and then you can.
So I'll talk to you at a later time about what you need.
Yeah, if you have like an equipment list or photos, both.
Yeah, I do.
I'll use my contact in insurance to say,
Okay.
this is what we're looking at, and, I mean, they won't be able to commit because of the design criteria.
Yeah.
But they'll, you know, give me a yea or nay in terms of, yeah, it might work or it definitely won't work.
If I had a concept design with the obstacles as well, would that help?
Definitely.
Okay. I'll
But
try
you
to
need
get
to,
this.
the committee needs to form, it needs to do
Yeah,
that, but you need to
But
do
this
that
is
at the same
homework.
time.
Just, you know,
Mhm.
we could do stuff before we meet. So.
I'm sure the guy that originally designed it had to go through the same type of
Yeah.
insurance.
Yeah, they do.
I would think.
Yeah. Skate park builders deal with that on a daily basis.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything is all up to
Yeah, there's
So-
people
Yeah, we-
jumping at
What
the
year
bit.
is it?
How old?
2013.
Yeah.
It's been in storage.
But it is,
2 years.
well, granite marble. It's not going anywhere. It's been here for thousands of years.
Extremely heavy.
It's very heavy.
Nice
and
It's got to be stored.
It's all weather.
A lot of issues
You're
going
gonna
on.
need a crane,
Yeah.
I think, to move it.
So.
Yeah, how would you move it? Do you need a crane or is there a
Forklift,
special
spe-
forklift?
special-
But he has a-
Flatbeds, that's not a problem.
A flat, and he rents a forklift. Maybe he would even rent the forklift for us for the day to get it on it. But then the issue where it's going here, wherever in storage, would be an issue of, getting a forklift. So.
I can handle that, that's not
Right.
a big deal, the issue comes, you know.
We gotta make sure it's tied in, that that's something we want.
Who
Right,
owns
it's
it,
gotta be something we
is it-
want.
It goes on my company's property, we own it, I mean, there's a whole bunch of issues that get involved in it.
Okay.
Granite and marble really
It's
doesn't
gonna
have
be
to,
hard.
doesn't have to be inside.
No, I would
No.
store it outside, the
Yeah,
problem
you can
would
say
be
so.
what happens if the skate park
Let's
doesn't
see.
happen, right.
Let's see
And then everybody gets,
it's usable,
What?
and then we can go.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah, we could build it. There we we go. Any other questions? Anybody comments? No? Okay, next on the agenda is closed session.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.